The prison that time forgot. Dust clouds swirled around Grant Keller's boots as he stepped carefully into the ruins. His flashlight flickered over cracked stone and forgotten carvings. The air smelled old, dry, and full of secrets. He was alone. On Zareth Prime, a dead planet, abandoned by its people long ago. Historians called it cursed. Others said it was just empty. But Grant, a deep space explorer from Earth, didn't believe in curses. He believed in lost technology, strange relics, and hidden truths. His scanner beeped, a slow rhythm that suddenly spiked. The ground beneath him rumbled. A slab of stone gave way, revealing a hidden staircase leading underground. He hesitated. Then, gripping his worn-out backpack and his father's rusted sword, more of a good luck charm than a weapon, he descended. The stairwell was dark, but strange lights pulsed in the stone-glowing blue veins like circuits under skin. The deeper he went, the colder the air grew. Finally, the stairs ended in a giant metal door. Symbols, unlike anything Grant had seen, danced across it. At its center, a circular lock shimmered. Strangely, it opened the moment Grant touched it. The door groaned open, and a gust of air hit him, thick, stale, and heavy with silence. Inside was a circular chamber. In the center stood a tall, curved platform, and on it, bound by glowing silver chains, was a figure, a girl. She wasn't human. Her skin was a soft purple shade, glowing faintly. Long silver hair fell over her face. Her eyes were open, watching him, calm, not afraid. Grant froze. She looked awake. She didn't speak, didn't move, only stared. Grant stepped closer, heart pounding. The chains were wrapped around her wrists, ankles, neck, even her waist. They weren't mechanical. They shimmered like liquid light, humming softly. "Hello," he said, his voice dry. "Can you hear me?" She blinked, slowly. "Yes," she sighed. Her voice was smooth, soft like wind through glass. "You are human?" He nodded. "Grant Keller. I'm from Earth." Her eyes narrowed. "A child of the forgotten world," Grant frowned. "You've been here a long time, haven't you?" "I have forgotten the taste of time," she replied. "They left me here, to be bound forever." He stepped closer. "Who did this to you?" "My own people," she whispered. "They feared what I became." Grant looked at the chains again. They weren't regular restraints. He'd seen force fields, energy locks, plasma binds, but these were different. They felt alive. He reached into his bag and pulled out a laser cutter. A quick slice toward one of the chains, but the beam bounced off, harmless. "No use," she said. "Many tried. Machines, weapons, even warlords. Nothing breaks them. Why keep trying?" He asked, "Because every 1,000 years, someone comes, and every time they fail." Grant looked down at his side. The rusted sword his father's old relic hung in its worn leather sheath. It wasn't powered, sharp, or fancy. Just steel and time. Something pulled at him. A gut feeling. He unsheathed the sword. The girl's eyes widened. "That blade, it's old," Grant said. "Came from Earth generations ago. I only carry it for luck." "Touch the chain," she whispered. Her voice trembled now. He hesitated. Then slowly, he brought the edge of the sword against the nearest glowing chain. There was no spark. No bang, just a soft sound like silk tearing. The chain fell. She gasped. Grant stepped back. "What the hell?" The remaining chains began to react, vibrating, glowing brighter. She cried out, not in pain, but surprise. He struck again, and another chain split apart, falling like mist. In seconds, they were gone. The girl collapsed forward, catching herself on shaking hands. She looked up at him, eyes glowing with awe. "You double cooch," she whispered. "You did what no one could. That sword, it's not just metal, it's void steel." "Void steel?" he repeated. "It is a metal that doesn't belong to this galaxy," she said. standing weakly. It cuts what should not be cut. Time, energy, fate. Even cursed. Bindings, he blinked. So this sword, it saved me. Suddenly, the chamber lights flared red. A deep, metallic voice echoed, "Containment breach. The prisoner is free." The walls began to shift. Machinery whirred to life. Ancient security systems, untouched for centuries, woke up with deadly purpose. The girl turned to him. "We have to go, now." Grant didn't argue. He grabbed her arm gently, pulled her up. Together, they ran away from the place where time had stopped. Behind them, the voice spoke again. "The flame is unbound, initiating purge." Grant didn't know who she really was, or what he had just unleashed, but one thing was sure. The galaxy would soon find out. Who is Sherelle? The desert wind outside the ruin felt like fire on Grant's face as he helped the strange alien girl climb the sandy slope. The sun of Zareth Prime beat down hard. But it was better than what chased them below. Alarms still echoed behind them. Metal walls screamed. Drones were waking ancient machines with one purpose: keep the prisoner sealed. Sherelle, the girl he'd just freed, limped beside him. Her long silver hair clung to her skin, and her glowing purple eyes scanned the horizon, searching for threats. Grant looked at her. "Can you walk?" "I will walk," she said firmly, "but I do not know if I can run." They reached the top of a dune. Below, across the endless sand, an old human outpost shimmered in the heat. Grant smiled. "That way. I have a rover and some supplies there. We'll be safe. I hope." Sherelle said nothing. Her gaze lingered on him a moment longer than he expected. Then she nodded. They moved quickly, careful not to make too much noise. The sand shifted behind them, but it wasn't their steps. Something else was coming. When they finally reached the outpost, Grant sealed the metal door behind them. He dropped his bag and sat on the cold floor, breathing hard. Sherelle stood in silence, staring at the walls. Rusted tools, empty ration packs, and a cracked solar panel greeted her. Still, her focus stayed on one thing: the sword. Grant noticed her gaze. "You keep looking at it like it's a god or something." "It might be," she whispered. He raised an eyebrow. "It's just an old Earth sword. It's been in my family forever. My great-grandfather found it in a crashed pod, and it's been passed down ever since. No one knows where it really came from." Sherelle moved closer. "That blade is void steel," she said again, softer now. "It's not from your world, not from any world. Okay, but what is void steel?" Grant asked. She sat down across from him, her limbs still shaking. "In my time, we called it the Starcut alloy, a metal created in the death of stars, shaped by beings we never understood. We used it to bind the worst enemies and lock away the most dangerous powers." Grant blinked. "You mean you were locked up because—" She looked up at him, her face calm but tired. "I was the High Sentinel of the Solari Empire. We ruled parts of the galaxy 200 years ago. I was born to protect our people. I fought wars, destroyed invaders, saved colonies." "Then why did they lock you up?" "Because I refused to destroy a species," she said simply. "The Council ordered me to burn a peaceful planet to prove our power. I said no." Grant leaned forward. "And for that, they chained you up for 2 centuries?" "Not just chains," she said, touching her wrists, cursed bindings, powered by ancient tech, meant to erase my name from history." Grant looked at her, unsure if he should believe all of this. But one thing was clear: the fear in her voice was real. The pain in her eyes wasn't fake. "And now," she added, "because of your blade, I'm free." Grant stood and walked to the table. He picked up the sword and stared at its dull, rusted edge. It didn't glow. It didn't hum. It just was. "Do you know how it cut your chains?" She shook her head. "Only that it chose you." He turned, confused. "Chose me? There were many before you, she said. Aliens with advanced tech, creatures with burning plasma. None of them could even scratch the chains. But you, human with an old blade cut through them like silk. Grant gave a dry laugh. That's insane. I'm not special. I barely made it through flight school. Sherelle stood. Her posture was straight now, stronger. Maybe it's not about power. Maybe it's about heart. Suddenly, a shrill beep came from the outpost's old scanner. Grant ran to it. His face turned pale. Drones, 3 of them, moving fast. Sherelle walked up beside him. They've found us. These ruins have been asleep for centuries. How are they moving now? They were never asleep, she said. They were watching, waiting for the chains to be broken. He grabbed a small blaster. We can hold them off for a bit, but not long. This outpost won't protect us. Sherelle touched the blade at his side. Then we fight. Grant looked at her. You sure you're ready? She stepped toward the door. I've waited 200 years for justice. I'm ready. The door buzzed. The drones were here. Grant tightened his grip on the sword. Sherelle looked back at him. You don't even know what that blade really is, do you? No, he said. She smiled faintly. Then let's find out together. And with that, they stepped outside, into the sun, into the storm, into a fight neither of them could avoid. Chased across the sands, the wind roared across the sand as 3 black drones dropped from the sky like hungry vultures. Grant pulled. Sherelle behind her rusted dune buggy parked near the outpost. He clutched the sword in one hand, a small plasma pistol in the other. It wasn't much. And against ancient death machines, it felt like nothing at all. The drones hovered low, scanning the ground. Their metal shells shimmered with old armor plating and hidden weapons. Strange alien symbols blinked red across their surfaces. Sherelle narrowed her eyes. Recon Class 9, fast, smart, armed with pulse beams and thermal locks. Grant frowned. Anything else? They don't miss. One of the drones let out a shriek, high-pitched and electronic. Its body split open to reveal a glowing weapon. Beryl, run, she said. They bolted across the sand, leaving the outpost behind. Grant's boots kicked up dust as he followed Sherelle's path, dodging rocks and broken satellite dishes. Buried under years of sandstorms, the first shot came fast, a burning white pulse that blasted a crater behind them. I thought you said you couldn't run. Grant yelled, panting. I remembered how, she replied, voice calm despite everything. Another pulse hit closer, spraying heat against his back. He nearly dropped the sword, but gripped it tighter. Ahead, a rocky cliff appeared, jagged and steep. Sherelle climbed first, her fingers moving fast like she'd done it 100 times. Grant struggled behind her, slipping once before catching himself. They reached the top. The drones hovered below, scanning, but didn't rise. Sherelle pointed to the distance. There, a communications tower. Old, but still standing. Grant saw it too, a tall, bent tower sticking out of the sand like a bone. Will it work? Maybe. But more important, it has something we can use. They didn't waste time. The desert stretched endlessly, but they moved fast. The heat pressed down like a weight. Sweat soaked Grant's shirt. His legs ached. But Sherelle kept going, her focus sharp. As they walked, he glanced sideways. Back there, you weren't afraid. I was, she replied. But fear doesn't stop me. Not anymore. You talk like a soldier. I was trained as one, she said, before they betrayed me. What were you really, Sherelle? A warrior? A queen? She looked at him. Both. That quiet answer sank deep in Grant's chest. She didn't speak it with pride. More like regret. They reached the tower at last. Its base was cracked and half buried in the sand. A metal hatch groaned open. When Grant kicked it, inside was dark, but cool. Lights flickered. Old systems blinked awake. Sherelle found a panel and placed her hand over it. Symbols lit up. Shalari Tech still remembered her. Still works, she muttered. Barely. Grant sat on the floor, sword across his lap. Do you think those drones will follow? They will try. But I sent a false signal back toward the ruins. It might delay them. Good, Sherelle turned. You're tired. I've had worse, he lied. She walked closer and knelt. Your sword, let me see it. He hesitated, then handed it over. She held it gently, her fingers brushing over the rusted metal. It looks broken, dead, but inside there's power. I don't feel it. You wouldn't, not yet. Void steel chooses when to wake, he blinked. That's not comforting. She smiled a little. It was made by something ancient, not your kind. Not mine either. Grant leaned forward. Then how did my people even find it? She turned the blade over. Maybe someone gave it to you long ago. A gift for a future war. Before he could respond, the tower shook. Dust rained from above. They both froze. Outside, a loud screech echoed, metal wings against sky. The drones had returned. They tracked. US, Grant said. Then we fight, Sherelle replied. No cover out there, he warned. They'll blast us to dust. She stood tall. We don't go out. We bring them in, he grinned. Now you're thinking like a human, she gave a soft laugh. No, I'm thinking like someone who wants to live. Together, they moved quickly. Sherelle reprogrammed the tower's beacon. It sent out a high-frequency pulse one that mimicked a rescue signal. Outside, the drones adjusted course, drawing in fast. Grant took position by the hatch, sword in hand. Sherelle crouched near the controls, ready to close the doors behind them. The first drone entered. Grant didn't wait. He struck fast. The blade, dull and old in appearance, flared blue for the first time just for a second. The drone's armor split open like paper, its inside sparking. Sherelle slammed the hatch shut as the second drone tried to enter. It bounced off, confused. The third fired through the wall, burning a hole but missed. Grant stepped forward, face serious. It's waking up, the sword. Then we just might survive, Sherelle said. The outpost groaned under fire, but two hearts stood strong inside it, one alien, one human, both unwilling to fall. The sword's secret, the outpost was dark and silent now. Smoke drifted through the air. One drone lay in pieces across the floor, its limbs twitching. The others had pulled back, confused or regrouping. Grant sat on the cold ground, staring at the sword in his hands. It no longer looked dull. A faint blue glow moved along the blade, like mist trapped in metal. Sherelle stood near a cracked console, her hand glowing faintly as she connected with the alien tech. They won't wait long, she said. More will come. Grant barely heard her. His fingers traced the handle of the sword, an old earth grip, wrapped in leather that had cracked long ago. My great-grandfather said this sword saved his life during a pirate raid. He said quietly. No one believed him. Said it was luck. It wasn't luck, Sherelle said. Void steel doesn't work by chance. He looked up. You said the sword chose me. But why me? I'm not a soldier. I'm not even that brave. Sherelle walked closer, kneeling beside him. You're human, and humans are strange. That's not an answer, she smiled slightly. Your species was never meant to rise so fast. You were ignored by the ancients. Overlooked, but somehow you grew strong. You explore. You survive, Grant snorted. We also destroy a lot. Yes, she said softly, but you also heal. Maybe the sword saw something in you. Something old. Something forgotten. He stared at the blade again. Then where did it come from? How did it end up on Earth? Sherelle leaned back, thinking. There's a legend among my people. A story about a blade forged at the edge of a dying star. A gift from an unknown race, given to a traveler who saved a planet without ever firing a weapon. That sounds like a story made up to scare kids. Maybe, she said, but if that's the same blade, then it was never meant for war. It was meant to unmake the unbreakable. Grant glanced toward the broken drone on the floor. It sure looks like it was made for war to me. She stood and walked to the console again. There's a data vault nearby. One of the last Chilari record halls. If the sword has a name, it'll be there. You think it's that important? Sherelle didn't look at him. The sword freed me. It broke chains no one else could touch. That means it's tied to something greater, maybe something dangerous. Grant nodded. Then we find this data vault. A sharp beep rang from the console. Sherelle turned toward him. There's a path underground. It leads to the vault. But what? It's guarded. Grant stood. By what? She paused. Not what. Who? A Solari mind spirit. A guardian AI created from a real person's memories. He raised an eyebrow. That sounds awful. It is, she said. They think like us. Feel like us. But they obey only one command. Protect the knowledge. Kill all threats. Then we don't act like threats, he said. Sherelle looked at him. It doesn't matter. To the AI, anyone touching forbidden knowledge is already a threat. Grant tightened the sword in his grip. Great. They moved quickly, following the blinking trail on the old map. A small trapdoor led them deeper underground. The air grew cooler, damper. Lights flickered along the ceiling, still running after 200 years at last. They reached a silver door, shaped like a teardrop. Sherelle stepped forward and pressed her hand to it. The door shimmered and opened. Inside was a wide chamber with rows of glowing panels, screens floating in the air. In the center stood a single figure, a woman half transparent, dressed in ancient armor. Her eyes were made of light. Sherelle of House Villain, the figure said. You are not permitted. I am no longer bound, Sherelle replied. And the sword is awake. The figure turned to Grant. You carry Edge of Endurance. Grant blinked. That's its name? Yes, the AI said. One of the last 7 blades forged to cut fate itself. He stepped closer. Why does it work when nothing else does? Because it was never meant to be used by the powerful, the AI answered. It chooses the humble, the stubborn, the ones who walk forward even when they are afraid. Grant laughed nervously. That sounds a little too accurate. The AI's eyes glowed brighter. You are not authorized. But the blade overrides all restrictions. Suddenly, the walls lit up. Images filled the chamber, stars collapsing, metal forming in space. A figure hammering the blade under impossible pressure. Sherelle watched silently. So it's true, the myths. The forge at the end of time. The eye nodded. But now, the blade has awakened again. That means the enemy returns. What enemy? Grant asked. The one who locked her away, the AI said. And they are coming. The room went dark. Then a new alarm started to ring. They're here, Sherelle whispered. Grant raised the sword. Then let's finish this. Rebirth of the bound flame. The moment the alarm rang, the walls of the vault shifted. Symbols faded. The Eye Guardian vanished like smoke in the wind. Grant turned toward Sherelle, his grip tight on the glowing sword. What did it mean, they are coming? Sherelle didn't answer right away. Her eyes were locked on the symbols still fading on the floor. She looked afraid for the first time since he had met her. Who's coming, Sherelle? She whispered. The ones who chained me. The High Shalari Council, or what's left of it, Grant frowned. But they died out, didn't they? No, she said. They didn't die. They became something worse. A rumble echoed through the underground vault. The ceiling shook. Cracks spread across it like spiderwebs. Then, a new sound, deep, metallic, unnatural. Dropships, Grant said. At least 2. They want to take me back, Sherelle said. Or destroy me and you. Grant took her hand and pulled her toward the rear door. Then let's not give them the chance. The vault opened into a narrow hallway lit by dim blue lights. As they ran, Shirell's steps grew slower. Her breathing turned shallow. He looked back. Are you okay? She grabbed the wall for balance. It's starting. What's starting? Shirell dropped to her knees. Her body shook. Her skin shimmered brighter, her veins glowing gold. I thought I had more time, she gasped. The chains weren't just prison. They were seals. They held my power inside. Too much power. Grant knelt beside her. Is it hurting you? Yes. But it's more than pain. She looked into his eyes. I'm changing. The vault trembled again. A section of wall collapsed behind them. Grant pulled her up. Then we get out of here before they bury us alive. They pushed forward, dodging falling metal and sparks. At the end of the hallway was a steel door with alien writing. Grant used the sword to pry it open. Outside, the sky was dark with smoke. 2 massive dropships hovered over the sands, their engines burning red. Soldiers, tall, armored creatures, marched out like machines. Their weapons looked ancient but deadly. Grant dragged Shirell into the shadows behind a broken dune crawler. They look like walking tanks. They're called the Hollow Guard, she whispered. Once they were Solari. Now they are only shells. He studied them. How do we fight that? Shirell's eyes shimmered gold now. We don't. I do. She stood slowly, power humming in her chest. Her feet left the ground, just a few inches. The air around her bent like heat waves. Her voice had a different tone now, clear, strong, full of command. They wanted to hide the flame. They sealed it in chains, but you broke them, Grant Keller. And now I remember who I am. Grant watched, stunned, as Shirell raised one hand. Fire not red, but blue burned across her fingers. What are you becoming? Shirell turned to him. What I was born to be. A star flame, the last one. Suddenly, a bolt of energy tore through the air, aimed right at them. Grant threw himself over Shirell. The blast hit the crawler, sending it flying in pieces. The Hollow Guard were charging now, weapons glowing, faces hidden behind ancient glass. Shirell stepped forward, her feet touching the sand with purpose. Grant shouted, Shirell, wait! But she raised her hand. The ground exploded in blue fire. The first wave of Hollow Guards were lifted into the air, screaming in silence, their armor turning to ash. The sky shimmered. Even the dropships above wavered, systems flickering. Grant shielded his eyes. When the dust settled, half the enemy force was gone. Shirell stood tall, eyes glowing like suns. But her body was shaking. That power. It's too much, she said, knees bending. Grant caught her. You can't hold it, can you? No, she whispered. It's burning me from inside. More Hollow Guards were coming. The second drop ship opened. A new figure stepped out, taller, heavier, and glowing like her, but colder, older. Grant stared. Is that? Shirell's voice dropped. The Warden of Chains, my old teacher. The Warden's voice echoed across the battlefield. You should have remained sealed, Flame. Now you will burn out. Grant stood in front of Shirell, sword in hand. She's not alone anymore. The Warden laughed. You? A human with a dead weapon? But the sword answered. Its glow turned sharp alive. The blue mist became solid flame. It pulsed once, twice, and the very air hummed around Grant. He stepped forward. Let's find out if it's really dead. Shirell smiled weakly behind him. The sword has chosen its moment. Together, they faced the Warden man and alien, flame and steel. The storm was coming, but this time, they wouldn't run. The last battle of Zareth Prime. The sands of Zareth Prime trembled as the Warden Feig raised his arm. Behind him, the remaining Hollow Guards stood in perfect formation. Each one shimmered with dark armor and ghostly blue lights under their helmets. They didn't speak. They didn't breathe. They only waited for a command. Grant Keller stood between them, and Sharel. The human gripped his glowing sword tightly, the blade humming softly in his hand. His heart beat fast, but his legs didn't shake. Fear sat heavy on his shoulders, but something deeper held him up, something older than courage. Sharel leaned against a broken pillar behind him, her energy fading. Her body still burned with starlight, but it flickered now like a candle. In wind, the warden stepped forward. "You should not exist," he said, voice deep and cold. That blade was lost, buried, forgotten. Grant didn't move. Yes, it remembered. The warden drew his own weapon, a long spear with pulsing red edges. It shimmered with twisted Shalari energy, forged not from light, but from shadow. "Our flesh, I am memory." "You cannot win," the warden declared. "Maybe not," Grant said, "but I'm not leaving her behind." And with that, the final battle began. The warden struck first, faster than any man. His spear slashed the air, creating a blast of energy that cracked the ground open. Grant jumped aside just in time, rolling across the sand. He came up swinging the sword. Steel met energy. The clash sent a shockwave through the battlefield, scattering sand like smoke. The hollow guards moved in, surrounding them in a circle. Grant fought like he'd never fought before. The sword moved with him, almost guiding his hand. He blocked, twisted, parried. His body screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. The warden was stronger, older, but Grant had something the warden didn't. He had purpose. And he had Shaw single quotes RELL behind him. Sharel whispered words in an old language. Her hand pressed against the sand, sending waves of blue fire through the earth. Half the hollow guards collapsed, their bodies crumbling into dust. But each time she used her power, her light grew dimmer. The warden noticed. "She is burning out," he sneered. "You can't protect her forever." Grant didn't reply. He simply lunged forward, swinging the sword in a wide arc. The warden blocked, but the blade sliced deep into his armor. A strange cry escaped him, not pain but surprise. The blade edge of endurance cut through him like it had the chains. "You don't understand," the warden growled, stepping back. "That sword is not a weapon, it's a key. You've unlocked what was never meant to be free." "Maybe some things are meant to be free," Grant said. The warden roared and charged again. This time, Grant didn't dodge. He raised the sword high, and the blade blazed with blue fire. When the spear struck, the sword shattered the energy and pierced the warden's chest. A burst of light exploded from the impact. The warden stumbled back, his body flickering like a broken hollow image. Sharel stood now, her legs trembling. She held out her hand. "Let him go, Grant." Grant lowered the sword. The warden fell to his knees, sparks shooting from his chest. "I remember you now," the warden said to Sharel. "You were just a child, filled with light. We thought we could control you." "You were wrong," she said gently. Warden gave a bitter smile. "I wasn't afraid of your power. I was afraid you'd use it to change us." Then he faded, gone with the wind, like the dust he had commanded. Silence fell. The hollow guards stopped moving. Their lights dimmed, one by one, until only the desert wind remained. Grant turned to Sharel. She was swaying, barely standing. He rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she said with a weak smile. "We did." He helped her to sit on a stone. Her skin no longer glowed. Her body looked normal, almost too normal. "Are you all right?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "My powers are almost gone. I used too much. I won't be the flame again." Grant knelt in front of her, eyes searching hers. "So what now?" She looked around at the empty battlefield, the rising sun glowing over the dunes. "We live," she said softly. "We build something new. No chains, no thrones, just freedom." Grant looked at the sword. Its glow had faded again. It looked like plain metal once more. Quiet, Sleeping. Think it's done? He asked. Sharel nodded. Until the galaxy needs it again. He slid it back into its sheath. Let's hope that's a long time from now. They stood together, human and alien, on the ruins of a forgotten empire. A girl who had burned like a star, and a man with a sword no one understood. Chains of the heart days passed. Zareth Prime was quiet again. The wind returned to its lazy drift across the dunes, whispering through the bones of forgotten machines. The sky above was wide and endless, no warships, no soldiers, no fire. Just silence and stars. Grant Keller sat on a small hill of sand, legs crossed, the old sword resting beside him. It no longer glowed. It didn't hum or spark. It looked like junk again. But he knew better now. Beside him, Sharel stood barefoot, eyes closed, feeling the sunlight on her face. Her skin no longer shimmered with alien light. Her powers had faded, sealed away by her own choice. But she looked peaceful, more real than ever. Grant broke the silence first. Feels like the planet is breathing again. Sharel opened her eyes. Because it is. He looked up at her. You sure about leaving all this behind? The flame, the empire, the power. She smiled gently. I was never meant to rule an empire. I was only ever meant to protect life. But they twisted that meaning. Now I just want to live. He nodded. I can understand that. She sat next to him, drawing circles in the sand with her fingers. The sword, she said. It won't stay with you forever. I figured. Grant replied. It's not really mine. But it chose you, she added. And when it's ready, it will choose again. He touched the handle. That's all right. I'm not looking for another war. Sharel tilted her head. What are you looking for? Grant paused. Then he laughed. Honestly, I don't know. A quiet place. A good meal. Maybe a friend. She looked at him warmly. You already have that. Their eyes met, and for a long moment, nothing needed to be said. Then she stood again. There's something I want to show you. They walked together across the sands, toward a mountain ridge that glowed red under the twin suns. Hidden in the cliffs was a small, half-buried chamber, once a Solari temple, now a forgotten ruin. Inside, the walls were covered with carvings. Not of war, but of stars, forests, and oceans, places of peace. A small fountain still dripped crystal clear. Water into a shallow pool. Sharel stepped into the middle of the room and knelt. This was my family's temple, she said. Before the empire, before the chains. My mother used to bring me here and tell me, we are more than power. We are light meant to warm, not burn. Grant watched her fingers run over a carved sun. It's beautiful. I want to rebuild it, she said softly. Not just this place, but the meaning behind it. A new home. A new life. Not just for me, for others too. Those who were broken, like I was. Grant smiled. Sounds like a mission. She turned to him. Will you stay? He blinked. Me? Yes. I can't promise adventure or treasure, only hard work. And peace. He looked around the room, then back at her. Peace sounds nice. She stepped closer. You saved me, Grant. Not just with your sword, but with your kindness. You never saw me as a weapon or a myth, just as a person. He gave her a small smile. You saved me too. I came here looking for a story. I found something better. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a thin silver band, shaped like a broken ring. This was part of my original binding, she said. I kept it to remind myself who I was. But now I want to give it to you. He took it carefully. Why? Because you broke my chains, she said. And not just the ones on my body. Grant didn't know what to say. He simply nodded, slipping the ring onto a cord around his neck. They stepped out into the light again. Later that evening, as the stars returned, they sat by a fire made of dry branches and old scrap. The sword rested nearby, dull once more. But watching, perhaps. Sherelle leaned her head against Grant's shoulder. "Do you think the galaxy will leave us alone?" "No," he said, "but if it doesn't, we'll face it, together." The fire crackled. The stars blinked and on a world. Once ruled by chains and fear, two souls, one human, one alien, began a new chapter with war, but with hope.